Hello and welcome to Fellowship of Essential Oils. My name is Adam. Liz, how are you today?
I'm all right, thanks, Adam. It's great to see you. A bit tired after last night's masterclass. We're back into it straight away again, of course.
Yes, of course, we love our masterclasses. That's the opportunity for you to actually join me and Liz in a rather intimate group and ask any questions. We have some exclusive content. We go a little bit deeper than we can in these podcasts just for time wise. But students from all around the world, they're asking some really great and in-depth questions about aromatherapy, physical stuff, spiritual stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, and so this one, we're going to talk about Lyme today, aren't we? And so we can
Yes.
revisit that again on this month's masterclass, which is what, 26th of
26th
October?
of October. Yes.
And
Yep.
it's Australia time zone this time, isn't it?
It's Australia and Europe friendly, not so friendly to the Americans. We alternate it every second month to make sure that everyone can join in at some time. But at the same time, lots of people are just booking their tickets every single month and they're getting the replays because you get over 2 hours of really juicy content. You get handouts and a whole range of different other goodies as well. So we'll have the details for that in the links below. But we're talking about lime today, another citrus oil. And sometimes I hear people say, "Oh, do we really need another citrus?" So, what do you think about lime?
Do you know what? I'm kind of in agreement with them about how many citruses do you need. This is one I used to use a lot when I was out on the road, seeing people like face to face. It's not an oil I use that much now. And
What?
so I'll talk about because it's quite unusual things that I used it for. But I do like how it's very good for uplifting, but also if you're in a situation that you can't kind of think yourself out of, it's very good at kind of slowing your mind down and going, let's just unpick this. And I like that. What
Yeah,
about
I
you? What
must.
do you use it for?
I must admit, with most essential oils, I like to try and work out what's its superpower. So, where does that oil stand alone? So often people think, oh, rosemary is really good for hair growth, or helichrysum is really good for healing wounds and everything like that. And for lime, I probably wouldn't have one where I'd go, oh, that's superpower, but I do quite like it. Where I find lots of people kind of will add it to blends is it's quite a gentle one for a bit of respiratory or digestive support. And sometimes either if you're dealing with very young children or the elderly, or like I did a couple of weeks ago, got food poisoning, and some of the more potent, balancing oils that you might reach for with digestive upsets, I'm just like, oh, I don't feel too good. So lime is a bit of a softer alternative in that way. So I like to add it to diffuser blends for respiratory or chest rubs, and then for the digestive system as well.
So we often talk about how essential oils, particularly citrus essential oils, have got short shelf lives and that they can
Mm.
deteriorate quite quickly after about 6 months. You talk about rosemary, good for the hair. I like lime in a shampoo when everything's gone off, so it's gone past that 6 months. It's a little bit of a skin sensitizer, and so I wouldn't want it on my skin, but obviously this is all natural, so it doesn't need much care. But a bit of lime in the what's the word, conditioner, and
Conditioner, yep.
over the ends makes the ends dead shiny. So I wouldn't want it on the on my scalp because it's still irritant, but it's a great way to use your leftovers just to have a conditioner that you just only use for the ends of your hair, or also in argan oil. It's in my argan oil as well. Just to put it through, and it really gives it this sheen. And part of that, I guess, is because of the limonene and the way it cuts through grease. I don't know. But it makes your hair dead shiny. So that is one of the ways that I do use it. And I use it for that when, well, I don't like wasting essential oils. And
Mm.
with citrus essential oils, they go off so quick that you're like, oh, I've got to do something with that. So this is a great way to use lime oil. But I also use it, new ones. I'm going to put that and say this is fresh essential oil now. I'm back onto it. for pain, neuropathic pain. I also use it for circulatory problems. So if somebody has got like something like, you know, cold hands, cold feet, I'm going to come back to that statement in a minute. Raynaud's disease, thrombosis, varicose veins, anywhere where the circulatory system is off, it's really good for tonifying that. So just visiting the statement about the cold hands, cold feet, that can often be a side effect of chemotherapy. Personally, I wouldn't use lime oil if somebody was going through cancer therapy at all. And that's because of some research that was done in 2016 by, I think, an Iranian team. I haven't written it down, I think so. Probably because I have to say Iran are just so fantastic at essential oil research. They do so much. But they tested 4 different essential oils, citrus essential oils, for their actions on nociception. So anybody who's not sure what that is, nociception is how the nervous system transmits information about toxic situations, and that is often pain. And one of the things that they found was that lime was one of the best oils for doing it, but it also did something else that was not great, and that was called myelotoxicity. So myelotoxicity is that it actually affects the leukocytes, which are white blood cells that grow in the bone marrow. So if somebody is going through chemotherapy, going through cancer treatment, the chemotherapy will already do that to them. If somebody has something like neutropenia, which my daughter has neutropenia, so she has cyclic neutropenia, which means that her body automatically shuts off her blood, the bone marrow occasionally, and just takes away her immune system. And there are quite a lot of people that this happens to. So cyclic neutropenia, or somebody who's going through cancer treatment where the white blood cell count may already be affected, you wouldn't, I don't think, want to use lime oil because it will also do it as well. But I do think that the effects that it has on the mind, the way it's so good for lifting a tired mind, I think I would still kind of get them sniffing it if they were feeling like I just can't do this anymore, or maybe give them something like lemongrass, which is very good at, like, yeah, I know all of those things, but what if you could? So yeah, so circulation, pain would be the main ones. Whereas I say, like, it is really powerfully anti-inflammatory. So you can kind of weave it into other blends. There's I'm kind of going like this about whether to go down this route or not, because it's very advanced aromatherapy, but I also use it for 3 different other things. The first is heavy metal poisonings. So for arsenic and for chlorine toxicity. So I'll talk about those in a moment, but also for a condition called leishmaniasis. So I talked earlier about how I used to use it a lot when I was on the road. The dynamic of running a business was quite different. So imagine that we were at like a flower show or particularly an agricultural show. People would be obviously wandering around, looking at things in craft fairs, stuff like that, and then kind of go, oh, this person's talking about things that might be able to get better. I've got this thing. I wonder if they know about that, which is different to when you're marketing on the internet, which is like, I need something for this thing. So like now you kind of get the same conditions over and over again because people are just searching for those things. But when I was on the road, you would get a lot of really strange stuff. So this is where the heavy metal stuff comes in, but also the leishmaniasis. So one of the things quite often people would say is, they give me a gammy hand and go, I bet you can't do anything with that. And I'd be like, hold your face, don't show how disgusting that looks. And it would be like eczema, but it would be all like blistered and really inflamed. And they'd be like, I've had everything off the doctor. What can you do about that? So you would kind of start with a normal eczema treatment, but the chances are that they had been bitten by some kind of sandfly that had laid an egg, and the parasite was beneath the skin. And what had happened, it'd be like, it could be fine for ages, and then suddenly it'll just flare up, and what you'd be seeing was the life cycle of the parasite on the skin. And the reason why I said about the context was, obviously this happens when people go on holiday, like have lots of beach holidays, but also people who work with animal feces a lot, and so they are in an environment where they can get bitten quite easily and not even notice. And in those kind of situations, lime is a great help because it's very anti-parasitic. So using it with something like thyme or tea tree to break the cycle of that parasite, they'd be like, I don't know, you healed that, because the eczema, without the parasite, the eczema, the geranium we would use and the myrrh to heal over the skin, we weren't fighting a parasite anymore. So lime is really good on that level. Also on the point of view of agriculture is where things like arsenic and chlorine poisoning can come in. But also when you see people who've got like chronic asthma or breathing problems or skin conditions that won't heal, it is kind of an avenue to explore, but we're kind of in a situation where you'd be looking at a case history over a period of time and understanding somebody's background. So, for example, I mean, people go, what, arsenic? But actually, it's everywhere, and particularly it's in our water. And various places, and obviously the same is true of chlorine, various places around the world will have worse situations and better situations for this, but also certain things that happen in the environment. So another thing that happened around the time when I was working on the road was we were seeing people who had been fighting in Afghanistan, people who had been fighting in the Croatian War. These are chemical warfare things. They've inhaled them from stuff that goes off. Likewise, there was a huge eruption of a volcano in Iceland, and we had all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the ground, and volcanoes bring it up out of the ground and disperse it into the air. So if you have been in a situation where you have already been exposed to arsenic in some way, and then this happens, then you have this build up in the body. So as I say, certainly breathing problems, cancers, but also skin problems. Also, arsenic is in our ground naturally. As I say, the volcano will bring it up. So sometimes it will be in like a well or a river where it's leached out of the actual rocks itself and gone in. And there are certain places in the world where arsenic poisoning is really common because all of the water is like that. So, for example, Bangladesh, it's an enormous problem. And of course, chlorine is in the water normally. I think it's like, I don't know, 0.2 micrograms per something or other, because we have it to keep the to disinfect the water. But also, if somebody is a swimmer or a
Mm.
lifeguard where they're continuously exposed to the chlorine, you might see things like their acne becoming really bad, their sinuses becoming really bad because it's irritated by the chlorine. So again, all of those things, lime,
Yeah.
helpful.
So if someone was concerned that maybe they had been exposed to a bit too much arsenic or chlorine, how would they use the lime oil in this case?
So we tend to, so that, as I say, this is really very advanced stuff now. We tend to talk about like blending as 3 essential oils. But when you're looking at a situation, or let's say I am looking at a situation where somebody's clearly got many different situations going on. So, for example, somebody who has got PTSD, who has been at war, then we're looking at so many different things, aren't we? We're looking at a psychological problem. We're looking at this heavy metal stuff. Chances are they might have been injured in some way, so we're looking at that. So you're not going to be looking at 3 oils then. That you just
No.
would not be able to do that. So there's nothing to say that you can't use more oils. And I think that the maximum that I've ever used in one blend was 43 oils. And so, you know, but now you're looking at really small amounts at a time. But if we think about, and I always stress this, remember that an essential oil doesn't have side effects, it has many main effects. So we're only going to look at doing small increments with one drop. And so I would always use, sounds odd, but I would always use a moisturizer base, an aqueous lotion base, simply because you can just put it on, walk away.
Yeah.
And so what you would be doing is working with somebody on a week-to-week basis to kind of look at all of the different aspects. And you kind of, in those kind of situations, going to be looking at like vitamins and mineral therapy. Does the back need straightening because the spine might be out, healing stuff? But you would also work with meridians.
Yeah.
And so what we tend to do is to kind of, and bear in mind, I should say that I come from a very different schooling than a lot of people who will be watching this, because when you train as an aromatherapist in Britain, you are trained that massage is your medium. So we would be looking at doing massage as the main thing weekly, and maybe using like something like poultices or compresses to draw out the toxicity. We would use a home treatment with just like 1 or 2 drops of lime and other stuff to use daily. But as I say, within the massage and to use the home treatment, we would also use meridians. And when we're looking at toxicity, we would use the liver and the gallbladder meridians. And what's interesting is when you start to think about Chinese medicine and meridians in this way, you would say, right, okay, when I'm looking at the liver meridian and I'm looking at the gallbladder meridian, what else? So the liver meridian is involved with authority, but also to do with anger. So if somebody is getting like, it gets very angry or aggressive easily, or doesn't get angry and aggressive, because that's definitely a thing, you know, just you are not reasonably annoyed with what's going on with you, that can be quite weak energy in the meridian. So we would look at stimulating those down the meridian. So yes, so the liver is the outside of the leg, the gallbladder is the inside of the leg. I think I've got that right way around. And they kind of zigzag backwards and forwards. So if you imagine that it's like where the seam is to your trousers, and they go backwards, forward and forward like that. So we would rub the treatments up and down the liver and the gallbladder, the same inside there. And I would always say to people, when you're in an acute situation, to use it 5 times a day for the first week, so that your body goes with as much of it it can, and then drop it down to morning and night. If, for example, you were seeing something like leishmaniasis and somebody had it on their hands, then of course we're going to be wanting to put it in an ointment base so they can, like, you know. So you're being intelligent about what your bases are, but the most important thing when you're doing those kind of heavy metal things is about cleansing the system, which is using the liver and the gallbladder meridians, but then also nourishing it, which is not a conversation for now. That could be in the masterclass if people want to come, or to come and learn from me properly. And that's simply because I'm going to talk about vitamins and minerals, and that's not appropriate in this environment.
Got you. So maybe for someone, obviously an aromatherapist can help them to a greater degree, but a bit of an at-home therapy, lime, I guess, massaged down the sides of the calves and even on the sole of the foot would be something, if, while you're doing something at home until you find something a bit
Not on the sole of the foot. I would say not on the sole of the foot, because yes, it will do the job because it will absorb the lime and you need it into the system. But if you're going to use the therapy, you use the therapy. And the therapy is to stimulate the liver and gallbladder meridians. That's how you get it out. So I kind of only gave half a point as well. When I was saying about the liver being anger, gallbladder is worry. So again, you might find somebody's over anxious, and these are good pointers to liver and gallbladder being out of balance. And the two work together. So to be able to, so we kind of want to stimulate one, then stimulate the other in tandem.
Now, we often do say this with all our citrus videos, but I do want to kind of emphasize this as well. Obviously, whenever we're putting citruses on our skin, it does make the skin more photosensitive or more prone to sunburn. So, you wouldn't want to be even massaging it down those 2 meridians on your leg and then go for a day in the sun. No, probably not a good idea.
Correct.
No. So if you're putting trousers on or covering that up, or if it's the evening, that's going to be fine. But for about 12 hours, I normally say, after putting on a citrus oil, you want to avoid direct contact with sunlight.
Yes, I would say that. And I mean, we're going off on a tangent now. It's a sign that I'm overtired, that I'm even like going down this. But you asked about like how you would use lime, and I talked about how small you could go. You could go to like a homeopathic dose, which is like 1/15 of a drop. Well, then you're not going to have to worry about your phototoxicity either. It's going to be so low. So if people want to know what a homeopathic dose is, so you would get 14 drops of carrier oil. You would add 1 drop of lime to that. You would use 1 drop of that preparation, and then you've got 1/15 of a drop. And so that is a really good way of doing really deep healing without having to worry about phototoxicity and stuff like that.
I'm so glad you explained how to do that, because I'm sitting there going, I know how small 1 drop is. I'm like, am I sitting there with a scalpel trying to isolate 1/15 to that?
So, and do you know, so in my head, I learned it. I don't know if I was taught it this way or if I learned it, but I learned it as you did 15 drops of carrier oil and then 1 drop of essential oil. And my middle child is literally a maths genius, and he was like, "That's not 1/15 drop." And I was like, "Say what?" And I was like, "Whoa, I've been doing it." So, and then it became this big thing. I was like, "I got too many drops." So it's 14 drops of carrier oil, 1 drop of essential oil, then it's 1/15 of a drop.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So it was interesting what you're saying as well about, the gallbladder and the liver meridian and what they actually what they kind of govern. Because what I find lime is really good for, being a green fruit. I don't know, I'm sure you agree with me here. It's probably a heart chakra oil, and I definitely find it works with the heart chakra. But, it's interesting, in Malaysia particularly, they love using the scent of lime. They said it'll get rid of evil spirits. But on an emotional level, lime I find it really, really helpful for helping to get rid of that kind of, that tendency to be jealous or gossip, that kind of real evil drawing down and draining energies that we may, whether we are really critical of ourselves, critical of other people, kind of backstabbing, that betrayal, all that kind of real evil, nasty kind of energy. lime's really good for getting rid of that. And I guess even, it could be used, I haven't seen references, but for things like the evil eye. And anytime where there's that kind of, the word vile keeps coming to my mind when I think of lime. It helps get rid of all that vileness that may be in our lives, but also within ourselves. And I think sometimes, yes, we can be absolutely nasty to other people. We can gossip. We kind of find ourselves in situations where we're talking ill about someone to someone else, and we're like, hold on, this is over the top. I don't even mean this. I'm just trying to fit in or something like that. But also how we talk to ourselves. A lot of the time, I find people, the way we talk to ourselves, if we talk to anyone else like that, we'd probably get slapped. But we allow ourselves to do that. And I think lime's a really good one for helping us shift that, because that's sitting in that kind of vibration attracts more negativity and more evilness into your life.
I love that, and I'm going to be really careful and put a disclaimer before I say this, because I
Yeah.
can feel myself getting myself into trouble before I even go there. But whenever I smell lime, quite often I will see a character in front of me. So the most evolved character is Sweet Basil, and probably because I wrote the Sweet Basil, so I saw her for a long time. So she was like this amazing, like sergeant major fighting in Afghanistan, and she was so edgy, and she'd be like, stop thinking about it, get on with it, and she'd be shouting at you. And so that character is a really evolved character in my head. And incidentally, that's kind of a synesthetic thing to be able to see these characters. But Lime does have a character in my head, and she is like this really sassy drag queen. And
Okay.
and like, how, so I will say that I absolutely love a drag queen, and I absolutely admire anybody that's had the fortitude to go through, the whole thing of transgender, transsexual, transvestite, drag, all of that. I have the utmost respect for them. But when you watch these, like, there's always like Pose, for example, or the film Kinky Boots. You've got the drag queen who's got this kind of, she's got this sharp, the way she turns on people, she's like,
Yes.
that
The shade.
the shade, but also the tartness, and
Yeah.
that's like that to me. That's what I see when I've got lime. There's like a bittersweet story that's gone on there. And interestingly, and I can't quite say it in a way that's not offensive, but I'm just going to say it because I'm going to say I know that that it is offensive when I say it, but this idea that, like, you've got this parasite in your body that's not supposed to be there, it doesn't belong. You've got this arsenic in your body that doesn't belong, this chlorine that doesn't belong, and then you've got these people who have got the character in the wrong body. It's
Yes.
kind of,
Yeah.
and I don't really know how to say that without it being like offensive, but that way of like, my body on the outside doesn't match what's going on in the inside. And the story of somebody coming through that and surviving and living with that kind of feels like Lyme to me, and again, somebody who's got PTSD, same kind of thing, that the inward world is different to the outward world. It's been corrupted in some way.
I wonder if a word that, again, it's not the spot on word, and we're probably dancing around what we're trying to get at exactly, but the word exorcism, it gets rid of anything within us that actually isn't us, in a
Well,
way.
yes, yes, I like that, but I kind of don't want to use that where I'm talking about the drag queens and the transsexuals and stuff, because we don't want to get that out. That's
Yeah.
the right stuff. It's the outside stuff that's the bad stuff. And there's like
True, true.
this mismatch, somehow, where the inside doesn't match what it looks like on the outside. I find it really fascinating, and whenever I visit it, I'm like, she's there again. And I don't really understand who she is yet. I would like to spend time to understand who she is, what she's for. But I do think if somebody were in that situation where they were living that existence, if you knew somebody who was transgender and struggling with it, you knew somebody who really wanted to bring the drag queen, or even just like, well, the whole thing of, well, we were talking about last night in a way, like the Capricorn world, the outer world that's different to the inner world.
Yes.
The show, bring the show, bring the sass, bring the, it is like that.
Yeah, I guess it's a really good one for cleansing cleansing anything that isn't truly ourselves. So it's, I guess, a bit of
I
an
love
oil of
that. That's right.
authenticity. Yeah,
Yep.
authenticity from a physical level and so on. So I want to kind of clarify something. If we're reflecting now back, we've spoken about a few different citrus oils. We were kind of saying mandarin is like the child of the citruses, and the word that we kind of came up for grapefruit was tarty. So would we say grapefruit is tarty or tart? And sassy is the word for lime. If we're trying to differentiate and
Yeah, but I
characterize them, do you
also
think?
think bittersweet.
Bittersweet. Ah, okay.
That,
Got you.
that kind
Yep.
of story that's like, God, you're so proud when you see her on stage, but you know the struggle that's gone through.
The
For most
darkness
of them,
behind.
for most of them, there's a struggle, there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I really, have you ever seen Pose?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so when I was watching it, I kind of kept seeing that manifestation and smelling lime in my head. I was like, that's weird, it's
Hmm.
here again. But if anybody hasn't watched Pose, I would recommend watching it as just as a story and like smelling lime and saying, does this ring true for me? Can I like touch this?
Yeah, and please let us know in the comments. We'd love to know everyone's feedback on that for sure. I think, the other thing with Lime I'd like to ask you about, do you think it has a place when it comes to heartbreak? Maybe not the initial heartbreak, but kind of the residual muck that sits around the heart emotionally after a breakup. Do you think Lime would have a place there?
I think there's a situation for any oil in that situation, that
Mm,
like there's a case to be said of going through your oils and going, how does that make me feel?
yeah.
Does that make me feel better? But
Mm,
yeah, and I agree with that. I actually kind of feel that it's more a solar plexus oil in a way than a heart oil, although I know how you got there and I agree with it. But that
mm,
kind of feeling of like worthlessness, not quite fitting in, the damage a breakup does, rejection, all of that is kind of similar to the drag queen story, but also is really involved in the solar plexus. And solar plexus is to do with liver, to do with gallbladder, all of that stuff.
yeah.
So, there's that kind of, there's an energy that sits somewhere between the two, isn't there? I think it would
Yeah.
probably sit there.
One thing that just came through for Lime that feels quite strong is, sometimes when we feel bad about ourselves or other people don't feel good about themselves, how they'll improve their situation is to drag other people down. I think Lime would be a really good one to counteract that type of behavior.
Yeah, because it's sharp.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I find it, Lime can also, for me, there is a bit of, I really like this kind of drag queen persona. I've always found compared to like green mandarin, which is, another green fruit, could be another heart chakra one. Green mandarin's a bit more playful. There's a bit of a zest. I think zest is a really strong word for lime. And a bit of a warrior energy of like, no, 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 I will survive. Which, let's
And
just
I
quote a
will
drag queen
do it.
song.
Yeah, and I don't mean to sound so cliched but when
Yeah.
I say I do it my way, that was so drag queen cliched, and I didn't mean it that way. But like the whole thing of like, I will be different. Your way won't work for me. I will be different, and in those kind of situations where people keep giving you advice and I wouldn't do it that way. You do it the damn way, where the way you want to do it, the way that suits you. That's very much a Lime mentality. And I
Mm,
know that Robbie Zeck really rates Lime for her blossoming heart stuff, and she talks about how you use it when you're agitated, and this
yeah.
idea of like, I can feel you're going to pick a fight with me.
Yes. Yeah.
which comes up, and as you quite rightly say, when people are going to bring you down, you with a lot of people around you, the signs, don't you? Then
Mm.
that might be I'm putting a drop of that in there and I'm walking away. In the diffuser, walk away, you get on with it.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Yep, no, I think that's great. Now one thing I read, and I think I disagreed with it actually. It was another author's opinion. And what we should say, we often emphasize is that when it comes to this metaphysical and the kind of holistic aromatherapy, is Liz right? Am I right? Is someone else right? No. We're here to help you develop your own relationships one-on-one with those plants as well. And this author was saying that lemon is the kind of the epitome of the sun, and lime would be the lunar alternative to that. And that didn't quite resonate with me, but I wanted to see what you felt about that.
No, it doesn't with me either. But the petitgrain of lime is very lunar.
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay, yes, because of course petitgrain essential oil, although it normally most commonly comes from like the bitter orange tree, can come from any citrus oil, can't it? The leaves of any citrus oil. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Ah, okay. So where then astrologically, I still put lime with the sun. What about yourself?
I don't know. Yeah, I think I probably would go sun, but also the the deep like thing of the effects on the liver
Yeah.
is Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of anger and bittersweet, all of that's like Jupiterian, especially in association with authority and your father. I can imagine that would be complicated with a drag queen. So I'm going to go Juniper as well. Jupiter as well.
Jupiter, yeah. Going down your idea of alternative lifestyles and queerness and that type of thing, Uranus normally governs that. Would you even give Uranus a bit of a go at lime? Or does that resonate for you or not?
So from a philosophical point of view, that's a good argument. However, from a physical, like a medical astrology point of view, Uranus, I'm sorry, it has to be done. Uranus governs the electrical impulses that happen throughout the nervous system and the receptors. And apart from the nociception, I can't see a reason to support that. So I'm going to go no.
Got you. Yep. Awesome. Now, I do want to bring you back to a comment that you made last night in our masterclass, and you did mention it today, of this idea that you kind of have all your citrus oils on a bit of a 6-month rotation because of their ability to oxidize quite quickly, so that you're ordering a fresh one every month to use, correct me if I'm wrong, therapeutically, kind of it for that thing. And then they kind of get downgraded. The old bottle gets downgraded to something like for the lime, the shampoo and the ends of the hair. So you pop it in the shower stall and that type of thing as well. Is that what you're doing with your citruses, or was that the idea with the citruses you say?
Yeah, because and this happened as a side effect of my menopause, because I'm sure all of us know now that my memory is shot. So I have no perception of when I buy those oils whatsoever. In fact, I remember an old lady saying to me once at school, I remember the Boer War like it was yesterday, but I don't know what I had for breakfast. I'm like, that's me now. I do. So I know where the little ones came from because they're really old, but new ones I haven't got a clue. So I thought, right, I've got to be really careful with this. So yes, put them on a subscription. So I have a new one each month. So I've got like this month just came was grapefruit, and next month will be lemon, and then orange, and it goes through like that. So one a month. So it's like these are really cheap oils, aren't they? These are not the expensive ones. So I've just got it on an automatic subscription, and it just automatically comes through to me. And I know, right, when that one comes, that goes onto because this is not, I don't use these for therapy. There's a proper box for therapy, goes in the box, the other ones come out. And as you say, so like I use it for my hair or for potpourri, or I put like a few drops on the inside of the toilet roll holder to scent the loo, because otherwise it's going to get thrown away. But it means that I don't have to think about skin sensitization from the oils eroding. But also, it means I've set up a nice relationship with my oil supplier, that I'm always supporting them. And just each month it comes through.
So I'm going to ask because I'm curious, and I'm sure there's at least one or two other people watching or listening that are curious as well. So that must mean that you're rotating 6 citrus essential oils. So I'm guessing you've got orange, grapefruit, lemon, mandarin, lime. Is there a 6th one in there? And what is it? Do we know?
Bergamot.
Bergamot, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are your 6 main favourite citrus oils, which I would
I wouldn't say favourite, but they're the ones that come up often. And bear in mind that when I focus so much on this thing that Rhiannon Lewis taught me of how does it make you feel, it's a really good invitation for somebody to smell, because very few people go, I don't like the smell of that, because they know and they recognise the smell of that. And so it's a good oil to start with when somebody doesn't know much about aromatherapy, is maybe a bit tentative about it, so they do get used a lot.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground today, and probably as people are watching, they've had a few questions that popped up in their mind. Of course, you can always comment, especially if you're watching the YouTube video, and we try our best to keep on top of those comments. But what we recommend, write that question down, book in for the masterclass, and bring it. And that's what some of the really prepared students are doing, is they're listening to each of these episodes, getting their questions, and then coming in and we're answering them. And we're able to go, right down a tangent on any of the, the disorders or the ailments that you've talked about, any of the metaphysical stuff, we can go deeper into that as well. The other thing we should give a bit of a plug for, it's not totally aromatherapy linked, but you've got a brand new book out.
I do, I haven't got it by me. Yes, meeting the Melissae, the ancient Greek bee priestesses of Demeter. And it's not so much aromatherapy based, but it came from my original studies into lemon balm, Melissa, it's in this officinalis essential oil. That book's already on Amazon. But yeah, you can get Meeting the Melissae from anywhere that sells books.
Yes, so we'll put some links down in the conversation under this as well, if you want to grab that, as well as the links to grab all of other Liz's books as well. But we will be back again next week when we dive into another essential oil. But I think we've done lime some justice.
Yeah, we said we had nothing to say at the beginning.
Before we jump on, we always say, "Oh, I don't have much today," and then these always end up being the longest chat. So thank you very much for joining us on Fellowship of Essential Oils. Book in for your masterclass, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.